So here's the point with Rogan. Rogan gets the request, and he'll explain here what is. Rob, is this the one that he's explaining Kamala's request? So here's Rogan describing what Kamala's camp is asking if they choose to do the podcast. Go for it.
This is one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to Kamala Harris. I'm like, I bet there's a person in there. I bet I can get to that person.
Yeah.
I wanted to find that person. I don't want to hear all the speeches. I don't want to hear, I was raised middle class. I don't want to hear any of that shit.
She's a roller skater. You know that?
No, I would love to find that out.
Yeah.
I would love to talk to her about all kinds of shit. I literally said, like, because there was a few restrictions of things they didn't want to talk about. But I said, I don't give a fuck. I go, get her in here. Like, whatever you want to talk about. And they want to know if I edit. I'm like, there's not going to be any editing. There's no editing.
Yeah.
We're not going to edit. But
yeah, that's the same thing they asked us. Is there an edit? You know,
I just wanted to talk. I feel like you give someone a couple of hours and you start talking about anything.
So here we are today on the Patrick Bet David podcast, and PBD has a couple of guests. He's got Charlie Kirk and Chris Cuomo, and as you can see here, they're taking a look right now at a clip from the Joe Rogan Experience where they're talking about how Joe Rogan invited Kamala Harris onto his podcast just for a conversation, free-form conversation, just like he invited Donald Trump, but Trump took him up on the invitation, famously, and Kamala Harris infamously did not, but because of course her team had all sorts of requirements, and probably more pertinently, there's no way Kamala Harris can talk on the air, you know, just in a free-form conversation for 2 hours. You know, maybe she can, but her team does not want to let her do that because it probably would have been a total disaster. You know, and Joe said he just wanted to let her talk, you know, see who the person is, see how they react, see what they say, see how they vibe and all that. So let's pick it up where we left off here with Joe Rogan, and then they'll go back to PBD and his guests.
I'm going to see the pattern of the way you think.
That's right.
I'm going to see the way you process ideas.
That's right.
I'm going to see whether or not you're calculated or whether you're just free.
Exactly.
Or are you comfortable with you, or are you projecting things? Like, she's got 80 different accents. How do you decide which one to pull out?
Yeah.
Like, she's got, she busts out different accents.
You can pause that right there, Rob. And then meanwhile, when you look at this, okay, Rob, go to Twitter. This one fellow did a tweet breaking down the numbers on how each camp spent money. If you can just go to my profile, Rob, and I retweeted it. Just go to mine. And yeah, if you can go there and go lower. So you hear this, keep going lower, keep going lower, keep going lower, keep going lower, 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 lower. You'll see it. They're right there. Okay, so Justin Blinson, let's give him a shout out. So Justin, wonder who is painting a better picture for America. Campaign spending. Trump raised $381, spent $354. Only $10.4 million was spent on staff. Kamala, billion, spent $1.37 billion. $582 was spent on staff.
Can I say something about once?
Let me just say, I'm going to come straight to you right after this because you know, if you can, you know when you go, like a guy asked me a question, hey, can you give some money to our charity? What percentage of the money is spent on staff? It's the first question I ask. If you can send me what percentage of the money is spent on staff, I'll give you the money. Oh, our CO makes $670. I'm sorry, bro, I'm not doing that because the money's not going to the people. Okay. Oh, we don't spend that much money on staff. It's this much. No problem. Here's 50K. Here's 10K. Here's 100K. Based on what's being spent. When you see a structure like this and numbers like this, and then you get stories that they gave apparently Beyonce $10 million. They gave Call Her Daddy $100,000 to build a studio that they could have built for, what, $5,000, Rob, or whatever that was. They gave Oprah Winfrey $1 million. I bet Oprah's pissed off that they gave Beyonce 10 times what they gave her. Now, these are numbers that we're reading about, right? Is this the one, Rob?
Yeah.
Play this clip and I'll go to Charlie. Go ahead.
$10 million for Beyonce to step up and back Kamala Harris publicly. $5 million for Megan Thee Stallion. $3 million for Lizzo. $1.8 million for Eminem. I mean, is that normally how it goes? You spend $20 million, you get yourself in debt to try to get a bunch of rich celebrities on stage? I'd never seen that. Maybe I'm ignorant of the fact, but wow.
You know what? I have a confession to make. I never really thought about it either. I just thought these big celebrities, they gave their endorsement, and, you know, somebody like Beyonce, I mean, what does she need money for? I just figured that they, you know, they would show up at the rallies free of charge or play their concert free of charge, although I believe Beyonce didn't actually perform. I honestly, just like this lady here, I think she's on Fox. Is that right? It sounds extremely naive and dumb now that I say it and think about it. But yeah, I just figured that they were, Eminem or Oprah. I mean, Oprah. Pay Oprah? Why on earth do you need to pay Oprah? She's a multi-billionaire. It's insane. And the Kamala Harris campaign paid these celebrities millions and millions just to give their support. And I think it's become clear. I don't know about you. Let me know in the comments what you think. But I could really care less what some rich, mega rich celebrity like Oprah or Beyonce or all these Hollywood actors. Oh, maybe you've seen that hyper cringe video with Scarlett Johansson and some other actors, I guess from the Avengers or something. I'm not really into that. They did this insanely cringe video supporting Kamala Harris. It's just so bad. They're really being paid millions for this. And then, of course, the numbers, the absolute numbers, like Patrick Bet-David was saying there, Kamala Harris raised $1 billion, or raised and spent more than $1 billion. Her campaign's in debt now. It's insane.
Charlie.
A couple thoughts. So we ran one of the more criticized and now very silent outside groups that helped Donald Trump. So we had a super PAC and a 501c4, and we were attacked. And you guys can look at the articles almost every day. Donald Trump's unproven ground game. You probably saw these articles, right, Chris? I mean, it was a narrative, right, that Donald Trump does not have a ground game. Well, they were talking about what Turning Point and Elon were doing, and we would continually tell the media, like, well, we're actually delivering results. We've registered tens of thousands of people. We're chasing ballots. And the Kamala campaign was running this massive op where a lot of consultants made money, where they'd be like, well, we knocked on 18 million doors this weekend or something. And I'd say, well, how many ballots did you put in the box? I mean, how many votes did you actually bank in the early voting period? And we were able to disclose all those numbers in real time as they were happening. And something is amiss. Somebody made a lot of money on this Kamala campaign, like a lot. I don't know who, but I could tell you, being around campaigns a lot, $1 billion spent in 90 days and ending up in debt with very, very little to show for it, it's highly unusual. And it is the opposite of what happened in 2020. And again, the Trump campaign team deserves great credit. In 2020, the Trump campaign team ran out of money and was bankrupt by late September. You can find that article, Trump campaign team financial woes 2020. It was like September or October. Donald Trump in 2020, he started with $1 billion cash advantage, and that team spent it almost all the way down, right? If you could go down, I'm sure you can find it somewhere there. Yeah, in financial peril. Yep, that's it right there. How Trump's $1 billion campaign lost its cash advantage. New York Times, what's the date there on that article?
September 7th, 2020.
My memory's right on. And that's Shane and Maggie, the two best that the New York Times has to offer on this. And literally, Trump was in a financially perilous position. The Trump campaign saved their powder and was able to then outspend the Kamala campaign the last 2 weeks. The final point I'll make is this. All those totals don't count the outside money for Kamala Harris. It doesn't count the super PACs. It doesn't count the 501c4s. And it goes to show that money cannot alone win a White House, that a movement can triumph over a well-funded machine.
Yeah, that's true. And it always has been. Look, my father lost a bunch of elections before he won one. And nobody wanted him. He was an outsider. He was an ethnic. Now I'm a white guy.
At a time that it was a big deal, Italian.
One generation different, right? But he had to be mobbed up. Mercurial Mario, they called him, which was just a code for being an Italian guy. And it was about the people who wanted him to empower them. That's why he won. He beat Lou Lehrman in 1982, who was the head of Rite Aid drugstores. And he had all the money. He had all the cachet. He had all the polish. When they did their debate, my father made a moment with him where he shook his hand and he turned his wrist and he said, wow, that's a nice watch. Because he had like this big timepiece on. And so it didn't matter how much he was outspent because the people win. That's the beauty of our country, is that the people can still win. But it's getting harder and harder. It
should give a lot of people hope, even though you're outspent 3-1 and the media is completely against you. you could still overcome that. It goes
Although
to show
Trump's not the typical outspent guy, because
he's the most famous person ever to exist.
Yeah, because he gets so much free media attention. Although I'll tell you, one of the criticisms I got, somebody hit me with this again. It was good. It was nostalgic. They were like, Trump is your fault. I said, I know, because I've been red-pilled, right? And and they said, no, because you gave him so much attention in 2015, 2016. I said, well, I'll tell you how it happened if you want to know. My boss at the time decided that a phone call interview was okay because we'd rather have access than not have access.
Totally. That's so smart. And Trump loves doing those.
And, well, he kept offering, I'll call in.
Because he just sits at his desk.
And I was like, well, no, you got to get in front of it. And we didn't have Zoom, there's, pre-pandemic and all that. Zoom wasn't a thing. And even if it were, you weren't okay with it. And I tell you, this is easily verifiable.
Yes.
We went to the Hillary Clinton campaign, and I went to the people around her, and I said, he's calling in. Do you want to call in? If you want, you can come in, but you can call in. They didn't want to do it.
Think about how much time that saves you as a candidate. You get the full cable news treatment, right? No, that's a great point.
And it's very hard to, we all know as podcasters, that's why Patrick, like Rogan, takes the time and effort to have you in person. It's totally different.
Yes.
It's really hard for you to get a feel, but also to get a fix on somebody remotely, let alone on the phone. So it worked for Trump several different ways. But just like with podcasting, he said yes. She said no. And just like with the podcasts, he said yes. She said no relatively. And it's a mistake. As a candidate, you've got to say yes to everything.
Well, a very good point there that Chris Cuomo just made. It just shows how good Donald Trump's instincts are, his political instincts. Regardless of whether you like him or hate him, his political instincts are just spot on. He knows where to go. Okay, you want me to call in? I'll call in. It'll be great. Yeah, Joe, you want me to go on your podcast? I'll go on your podcast. We'll just chat. Of course, that's better. And of course, somebody like Hillary Clinton, somebody like Kamala Harris, of course they would refuse to do that. Basically, it's below them in their mind. It's below them. That's what plebs do. Just call on a phone, go on a podcast with some meathead like Joe Rogan. No. Or if we're going to do it, we have demands. It just goes to show that it looks like not much has changed in the last 8 years. The Democratic establishment just think they don't need to do that kind of thing. They are high on their own supply. They're living in their ivory tower. They're just so far removed from ordinary people that they can just, turn up their nose at invitations like that to get their name out there, to make themselves known, to show who they are. And, maybe it's because they are scared to show who they are to ordinary people, because ordinary people obviously don't like them. As Bill Burr said on Saturday Night Live recently, Donald Trump is 0-2. Well, Donald Trump is 2-0 against Democratic women candidates. Or you could say, as Bill Burr put it, the Democratic women candidates are 0-2 against Donald Trump. And is it because they're women? I don't know. That's what everybody's saying now. That's what all the libtards and leftists and liberals are saying now. Oh, the country is so misogynist. Or maybe it's just because, there might be an element of that, perhaps. Who knows? It's hard to know. But his instincts, Trump's political instincts were just so much better. He was so much more down to earth, just so much more human. Despite Trump being Trump, he is so much more human and has much more of a common touch than these two ordinary, so-called ordinary women who are in fact not ordinary at all. They're just these creations, or these political creations, these corporate creations, they're establishment. So anyway, a good point there from Chris Cuomo here on the Patrick Bet David podcast. Good points from Charlie Kirk too. Let me know what you think about all this. And in the meantime, don't forget to like and subscribe, especially. It really helps me continue growing the channel and making more content for you.